This is my video discussion post for week 4 interpretation, responding to the question, where in the world of sports do I see someone or something being misinterpreted? And really, I realized something yesterday when I was playing NBA 2K. I was playing in my career mode, which is really just like the career mode for the basketball game. And basically, what I found was that when I wasn't in the game, I wasn't rooting for my team anymore because that would mean that they can go on without me, they can do well in the game without me. Very, very trivial point. But what I realized from that was we expect players in all sports, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, really anything at all. We expect them to root for their teams, be always team players no matter what. Um, I think that's what I really realized is that's kind of an assumption that doesn't go along with anything else. Because more than being a team player, they want to support themselves. They want to make a living, and in sports, you can make a good living if you're a good player. However, if your team does better when you're not on the court, when you're not on the field, when anywhere else, you're not going to get paid as much money. You're not going to make as good of a living, and it's really just not beneficial to you at all in any aspect other than winning games, winning a championship, which not every player necessarily cares about. Um, so I thought that was a really interesting kind of point there about not understanding the players' motivations, what makes them really keep going and really doing it. A lot of players have families, a lot of them have friends that they want to support, and they care about those things more than their teammates that they were arbitrarily put onto. They're put on these teams. They don't really they don't know them that well necessarily. And while there are players who really care about the team, I don't think it should be expected that when they're not on the court, that they're rooting all the time, that they're doing their best all the time to root for their team, because that doesn't necessarily benefit them in the way that we would think that it does. So I think that it's significant because a lot of these players, they come from nothing, especially basketball and football. They come from areas they really want to buy a house for their mom. I've seen plenty of stuff with that. I've seen plenty of times when they buy stuff for their friends, and they really care about that more than anything else in the end. And like I said, there still are a lot of players who care about the team and they really want to do well when they're off the court. But really, what matters to them is doing well on the court. And I would also think that they wouldn't want their team to do well when they're not on the court because it's not good for them. Because if their team is, if they would win 10 more games if they weren't on the court, the team's not going to sign them back. But if they would lose 5 more games when they're not on the court, then they would want them and they would pay them more money. So it's kind of this counterintuitive thing that I didn't really realize until I experienced it for myself in the video game. Kind of, not really, but it's just on a much larger scale for them. So I thought that was a really interesting thing. So in conclusion, I don't think we should necessarily expect players to always root for their team when they're not on the court, especially as if we even see a player just kind of sitting on the bench, not even actually rooting against the team, but even just sitting back and just oh, they're lazy, they get paid all this money and they don't even support their team. I don't think that's necessarily a great expectation that we have for them, or a reasonable one at that. So I thought that was really interesting, and yeah, that's all I have.